The Flintstones Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everyone! In today's video I'm going to be doing a Flintstones flat nail art, and I've got Fred and Wilma and Barney and Betty and my personal favorite, Dino. I even named one of my guinea pigs after Dino. So I like the Flintstones, obviously. I hope you like them as much as I do and you like this design as well, and don't forget to click subscribe to see my future videos as well.
Begin by painting all of your nails a light cream or pale yellow. On my middle nail, I'm going to begin by painting Fred's outline. And so I'm going to start with the side of his head and then work on, and Fred is kind of at a slight angle, so you see his nose coming off the side, which is what I just did there. And then we're going to add his cheek and his chin down below, like so. And then we're going to add the color of his shirt and the side of his arm. And then just the area where he's got his stubble a little bit, so the darker area around his mouth and his hair. And at this point, I'm not going to be doing any of the details on the face, so I'm not going to worry about eyes or eyebrows or anything like that, his mouth, just the really main aspects. So where his face is, and basically where everything changes color is what I'm outlining now. And because he has black hair, I'm going to be filling in his hair at this point just because I have the black out, and I might as well. And so now I'm going to be filling in his face with a light nude color. And even though the background of my nails, which is this creamy type color, is very, very similar, it isn't quite the same color. It's more of a yellow, whereas the nude color is more of a beige tone. So you can see the difference, especially in real life. And I know that it's harder to see in the video. And then I'm going to fill in the area around his mouth with a slightly darker shade of that nude tone. And then I'm going to fill in the collar of his shirt with blue. And a little bit of shirt that shows with some orange. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to fix any outlines that may need it. So anywhere where when you filled in your colors, if it overlapped, definitely go over and fix those outlines because you want them to look nice and sharp. And then I'm going to be painting his eyes, so just ovals for his eyes, and then his little eyebrows. And then a little line under his eye to show that he's really weary and tired. And then I'm going to be painting his mouth. So the first line of his mouth starts from right near where his nose is, and then it curls up, and he has got a underbite. So you want to make sure that his lower jaw goes out past his upper jaw. Just like that, fill in his eyes with white. And then we're going to add his pupils. On my index nail, I'm going to be painting Wilma. And so I'm going to start with her hairline, just like that. So we got this really deep V shape that's for her, like I said, her hairline. And then we're going to add her bangs up above, and then her bun. And then the shape of her face. Her neck. And then just got a little bit of hair that shows on the other side of her face. And then the beads that are around the top of her dress and her shoulders. So then we're going to be filling in her face with the same color nude that we used for Fred. And so we're just going to fill in all of that area as well as her arms. And then I'm going to be filling in her hair with orange. And Wilma's hair, it depends on the picture and how edited and updated the version of the Flintstones is. Sometimes it's very, very orange. Sometimes it's more red. So it depends, and choose how you want to do it. I chose a very orange, older appearance. So then also fill in the beads of her dress and her dress with white. And then we're going to be filling, doing her face thing. So we're going to do her eyes and eyebrows, nose, mouth, and touching up her outlines. And in her hair, because it's got this curled appearance, almost like victory rolls, we're going to be definitely adding those curls and a couple of details to the rest of her hair, filling in her lips with red. So now on my ring nail, I'm going to be painting Barney. So I'm going to start with his outline, just like I've been doing for the other characters. And so I'm going to begin with his hair. And so his hair is a very similar shape to Fred's, which makes it a little easier. And then I'm going to add his face shape coming down, and he's got his cheekbones on either side. Actually, those are ears, they're not cheekbones. Don't listen to me. And then we're going to be painting his outfit, his clothes, his shirt, and also his arm on the side. So then we're going to be filling in his face with the same light nude color, just like everybody else, and filling in his arm as well of the arm that shows. Now, if your nails are shorter than mine, you might not be able to fit as much of each character in as I have been able to, so you're just going to have to adjust and maybe not do as much of their clothes, or maybe just shrink them down in general. And also, I forgot to do this in the original outline, but you do want to paint the outline of where his mouth is so that you can add that color. I just painted that in anyway, and fill in his hair with yellow, and then his shirt with some brown. And then we're going to be fixing up our outlines, which is probably my least favorite step of doing nails, doing the outline fixing. So you're going to want to add his nose at this point, outline the area around his mouth, add a little cross on his shirt for where it ties together, and add his mouth. And his mouth has an overbite, so it's the opposite of Fred in that respect. So make sure that his upper jaw is a little bit farther out than his lower, and then add his 2 round eyes and his eyebrows. And so now on our pinky, I'm going to begin by painting Betty. And so just like everyone else, I'm going to start with her hair. And because like Fred, she's got black hair, I'm not too worried about the lines of her hair getting very thick, because I'm going to be filling them in with black anyway. So if they get a little thicker than you may normally want them, it's no sweat because you're going to fill them in anyway. No one will ever know. And then you're also going to need to add the little bow that's in her hair. And now I'm going to be working on the outline of her face, and then her neck and her shoulders, a little bit of an elbow. See, once again, it depends on how long your nail is, how much of this you're going to be able to fit, and then also the top of her dress with a little bead. And then, like everyone else, I'm filling her face in with the light nude color along with her neck and her arms. And then I will be filling in her dress and her bow with a pale blue. And then her hair with black, which I could have done before, probably should have done before, but sometimes when you're painting, you just kind of get sidetracked and you lose what you're doing when, and yeah, you can fix it later. So then I'm going to fix up all my outlines, and then I'm going to do her eyes. So her eyes are circular, just like Barney's are, and add her nose and her smile and eyebrows. Fill in the whites in her eyes and the bead on her dress. Add some pink in her lips and pupils. On my thumb, I'm going to be painting Dino, and so I'm going to be starting with the top line of his face and then curving that down his snout, then extending the lines of his neck, and then making the little I'm trying to think, the little pointy shape for where his eyes go and his collar. And then I'm also going to do the outlines of his eyes. And the reason I'm doing the outlines of his eyes and I don't normally do the outlines of eyes at this stage, at least most of the time I only did the one, is because it affects the overall shape and silhouette, because his eyes extend past his face line. So I'm going to fill in his snout with the same nude color we did for everyone else. And then with a pinky purple or a bright color purple, I'm going to be filling in the rest of Dino. So around his eye and below his collar and down his neck. And then I'm going to do his collar with the same pale blue and orange. And then I'm going to be fixing up my outlines. And just like I said with Wilma, that her hair color does kind of vary depending on how old the image is that you're looking at. It's the same thing with Dino. He's sometimes much pinker, sometimes kind of a blue. And so you just have to choose what color you want him to be and go with it. I like this really bright color. It's my favorite, so that's the one I went with. And so then I'm going to fill in his eyes with white. And also with Dino, you're going to want to make sure you give him his smile and his nostrils. And then add his pupils. You don't have to fill in his nostrils, but make sure you paint them. At least give them their outline. And of course, add a layer of top coat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this design. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I would really love to see them. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!